it's Brett from Dad Bod Reaction Reviews again. A little something different today. Came across an old video I did with AFN Incirlik when I was still in the Air Force, talking about mental health, some of the struggles I had, some of the coping mechanisms. And I would like to thank AFN Incirlik for giving me the permission to use this. And I would also like to say that although I'm in uniform, this is my story. I'm not trying to represent the Air Force. I'm just hoping that this story can hopefully help at least one or two of you out there. Thank you. My wife and I had a lot of fertility issues, and we ended up going through in vitro. We were given very poor outlook on the chances of it working, and somehow we got twins out of it. So fast forward a few years, we PCS to Langley. Walter Reed has a fertility clinic up there, so we decided that we'd give it another go. And so it worked, but there was some things that happened after that kind of led to some issues. So unlike the first time they told us it wasn't going to work, and it did. The second time it did work. Everything looked positive. There was a good outlook for us. My wife did get pregnant. Everything was going well. We started obviously doing all the new find out things of parents, and like looking at stuff, coming up with all the new stuff we needed because our twins were old, so we had to rebuy everything. And so about, I'd say, just over a month of just elation and happiness.
Definitely.
Was followed up by the numbers. I don't want to pretend I know the medical terms, but the numbers that are supposed to be basically doubling every so often started going down and halting. So that was the first sign that, I mean, we still held out a little hope, but then the doctors finally just told us that we had lost the baby at that time. So
Wow.
So we had to start going through that complete opposite ringer of emotions, trying to do it together. Me trying to be the stereotypical man, which I don't suggest for anybody. Tried to be strong and hold on tight for everybody, and in doing so, I kept a lot of emotions in that I definitely should not have. Basically, everything that bothered me, I found ways to combat it by trying to find a way it didn't, as opposed to finding a way to make it better. Everything started to irritate me. I started getting anxiety attacks. Fortunately, they were all when I was by myself, so I kept it from my wife. I kept it from my work. I just tried to keep it all internal. And I did that for, I'd say, about 6 months of it just getting worse and worse and worse before I finally just looked at my wife and said, honey, I'm having issues.
Okay.
And we talked about it, and then I started getting the help that I probably should have long before that. I had never really had a single event like this that's impacted me on a level such as this. And so I didn't really, the feelings were new, and like I said, the anxiety attacks I had, fortunately, were all typically in my car or when I'm sitting there at work by myself, but they were all new, so I didn't even really know. And one of the big things is, and kind of a issue I see a lot of us having, I didn't think my problems compared enough to others that I should need to get help.
Yeah. You thought yours were smaller, essentially.
Yeah, you just read stories, you hear about like great success stories of people who needed help and got it, and I felt my story on the grand scheme was inconsequential to what others had gone through. And so for me personally, and something I'd like to just get out there, your story is your story. It needs to be, you need to get help for you, not because you think you should or shouldn't, but because you need to be the best you.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so it took about those 6 months of me finally just, I figured I wasn't being the person I should be at work. I definitely wasn't being the person I should be. I was distant at home to my wife, distant at home to my children. And so I talked to my wife, and she was extremely supportive and just wished that I had talked to her earlier about it. I decided to make an appointment with my PCM. Fortunately, I never had to go any further than him because he was amazing back at Langley, and we went through some medications before we finally found a combo that helped a lot, like an awful lot. But just talking to him and oddly enough, ironically enough, however you want to put it, him and his wife had fertility issues. They've had in vitro babies as well. And so just relating to him and him understanding and basically making me realize that this is a big deal. It's your big deal.
Right.
So that was an immense help there. The biggest thing that's helped is talking about it. Something that I never wanted to do is a too prideful guy, master sergeant in the Air Force, thinking I don't need to talk about my issues. It helps, especially if you can find someone with commonalities that you can discuss things with. It really helps, or even just somebody who can empathize with what you're going through. Definitely the ones you love. Talking to my wife about it, talking to my family about it back home. All those things have helped. Because, I don't know, there's some things that while the pain grows less and less, you never get over. We're never going to have that child. We're at an age now where we're not going to have more children. So that's something that while I have learned to deal with it, it's not ever going to go away. I'll be 80 years old thinking about the grandchildren I should be having with the child I could have had. So, but yeah, definitely just talking to people, being open about it with those that care. Going through the RTA course that they teach here and at all the bases around the Air Force. But a lot of things that I've done to learn to cope better with it. When I first got here, when you in process here at Incirlik, at least on the 39th side, that first mass in processing day, before it starts, just a bunch of tables around the room. And one of those tables has an MRT at it for the Master Resilience Trainer. And they have a sign-up sheet, just if you'd be interested in being a resilience training assistant. And I had heard things about it before, but I said, you know what, that sounds good. And so I signed up. A couple weeks later, I got an email saying there was a class coming out, and I signed up for that class. And I got to tell you, that class, in 18 plus years of military time, by far the most beneficial class I've been through.
Really?
That's not even just trying to sell the program. I wish everybody could go through that course. One of the big things that the class taught me that I use basically on a daily basis now is what's called mindfulness. And it's basically you living in the moment and you have a purpose. And you're doing it because if you dwell in the past can eat you alive. If you worry about the future, it can cause anxiety because nobody knows what the future's going to bring.
Okay.
So if you just live on purpose in the moment, it helps you kind of just bring clarity and focus on what's important right now. And focusing on that will also help you make sure that the future isn't an anxiety attack waiting to happen. I just stop and think, kind of just push everything else out and just think, today's a pretty good day. The weather, even if it's rainy, Incirlik's a lot better than I thought it was going to be. I get to go out, like I'd mentioned earlier, and while I'm the flight chief, I work for 20 great people out there. I get to go home, I get to look at pictures of my family, I get to FaceTime my kids. While I can't see them in person, that's what I got. That's something that people don't have everywhere, and that's something that on TDYs and deployments in the past didn't exist. So I mean, we're at a time right now where even being separated, you're never actually apart. So I try to use all the things I learned during the course, but the one I use daily and I try to pass on to others is definitely the mindfulness aspect. Help comes in so many forms, especially in today's Air Force when we're trying to help everybody in every way. We have the MFLAC where nobody has to know. We have the chaplain where you can have conversations with them and it's never going to make it past that chaplain. We have the mental health, we have PCMs, we have so many avenues. And don't underestimate the value of your mentors or your friends at work. Talk to somebody. If you don't think it's a big deal, doesn't mean it's not a big deal. Don't let it eat at you for so long that it's beyond repair once it finally comes to the breaking point. Hello again, everybody. That was a hard one to share again, but
like I said before, I'm hoping that it can help somebody out there. I'm not gonna ask you all to do anything additional besides watch it. Anything else is up to you. If this is something that you'd like to hear more about as time goes on, I've still struggled with mental health ever since then, so it helps to talk to people. So if there's anything I can do for you, please reach out. If you'd like to see more videos that we can talk about this, it can be interactive, it can be anything, or if you just want to talk off video where nobody knows, please let me know. All right, God bless everybody.